This is The Great Outdoors with Jason White, exploring the great outdoors in Pennsylvania and beyond. Brought to you by the Mariana Outdoorsman Association and by Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Now, The Great Outdoors with Jason White.
Hello, friends. I'm Jason White. Welcome to The Great Outdoors. Got a really fantastic show lined up today. We're going to dive into Pennsylvania Chapter 105 General Permits, and I'm also going to highlight some different regulatory reforms regarding wildlife management processing and reporting, which falls underneath of the Pennsylvania Game Commission. Before I do that, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors, Mariana Outdoorsman Association. You can join the MOA today at marianaoutdoors.com. 2.5 miles of trophy trout fishing, 6 different species of trout. In addition to that, 1,000-yard rifle range, 400 acres of upland bird hunting, 2 pistol ranges, and much, much more. I want to dive into the MOA's upcoming events. Friday, February the 7th, right around the corner, it'll be trout stocking number 6 of the fishing season. Friday, March 7th at 3 p.m. will be trout stocking number 7. Just a mental note, all trout stockings, we meet at 1997 Maury Road, Clarksville, Pennsylvania, 15322. We always stock 10 Mile Creek first, and then we move on to Daniel's Run. The last Saturday of March, and I apologize because I actually need to get this as a Facebook event. Saturday, March 29th, there will be a gun and cash bash between the Mariana Outdoorsman Association and the American Oil and Gas Alliance, which will be a collaboration highlighting the great outdoors and also the benefits of collaborating with the energy industry and all the stuff that I've talked about, obviously, pro-energy. But really fantastic to collaborate with them. That will be at 19 North Event Venue in Washington, Pennsylvania. Information for this event will be posted very soon on the MOA's Facebook page, which I will take care of that today. And you can also get additional information at marianaoutdoors.com. And you can always reach out to anybody affiliated with the American Oil and Gas Alliance as well. Looking ahead beyond that, we got another trout stocking Thursday, April 3rd at 3 p.m. That's number 8. Thursday, May 1st, trout stocking number 9. Friday, May 2nd through May the 4th, it'll be the second annual PA Trout Classic. It's a 2.5-day trophy trout contest. You can you absolutely can come and go at your leisure. You're not obligated to be there all day, every day. So if you only want to fish one day, you can. If you want to fish from start to finish all 2.5 days, you can do that too. Information for this is at Mariana Outdoorsman Association on Facebook, and also, again, marianaoutdoors.com. Registration, follow the information in the description. It kind of spells out what you got to do. And last but not least, looking ahead to the summer when we got warm weather, Saturday, June 14th, 9 a.m. Again, the Mariana Outdoorsman Association will be collaborating with the American Oil and Gas Alliance, and we're going to be doing a golf outing at Chippewa Golf Course. Again, highlighting the collaboration between the outdoors, conservation, and the energy industry, and showing that everybody's good stewards of the environment and working together. So if anybody wants any information on that, again, Mariana Outdoorsman Association, Facebook, and also marianaoutdoors.com. Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. If you're looking to book an upland bird hunt, if you're interested in any capacity with a white-tailed deer hunt, free range, Pennsylvania turkey hunt, free range, please check us out, 10mileco.org. Give us a call, 724-579-0924. If you're looking to book a blast and cast, which that would be a combination of hunting and fishing, we have that available. Lodging's available. We have just overnight accommodations. And certainly if you're interested in something bigger like a wedding, corporate event, family get-together, we offer that as well. Again, 10mileco.org, or give us a call at 724-579-0924. I have a special guest today, Matt Leeper of the American Oil and Gas Alliance. Thanks for coming on today, Matt.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Well, we're going to dive into a couple conversations, Matt, regarding the PA DEP's Chapter 105 permits and also some wildlife management stuff. But if you don't mind, kind of introduce yourself to the crowd, tell them about the Alliance, what you do, and we'll dive into it.
Okay. My name is Matt Leeper, and I am a Western Pennsylvania native. I grew up in and around the Seven Springs area, Donegal area in Westmoreland County. I've been working in the energy industry, specifically natural gas industry, for about the last 16 years. I joined up with a small group of people that brought a vision of helping with regulatory understanding, regulatory education, and being able to affect what's going on in Pennsylvania around the energy and oil and gas sector. We created the American Oil and Gas Alliance a little over a year and a half ago. What we're focusing on is education to actually help people understand what really happens, what really goes on with the processes, what goes on in the field, because we're out there every day. We see what's going on, and then you turn on the TV or you turn on your computer, and you find out a lot of things about your industry you didn't know were true. So it's our goal to help educate, to help push forward an understanding of what happens day to day in the field. Not only at the white collar level, but also at the blue collar level, because the majority of the jobs that we deal with are at that blue collar level, and we're dealing with people in the field. And we just want to make sure that everybody understands what's going on. And then we also want to take that information, and we also want to help educate legislators, policymakers, and anybody else that would be at those levers of power to actually understand what the circumstances are, what's really going on, and make sure that they're not being fed some information that may not be true. So that's pretty much where our goals are. That's where we align. And then we've also got a lot of arms in the conservation side as well, because if you know any of the blue collar guys that you're dealing with in the natural gas sector, most of them are hunters, fishermen, people that enjoy being in the outdoors. That's why they've kind of taken on the job they've gotten. So it's a big thing for us as well to make sure that we're giving access and understanding to that side as well.
Well, for anybody listening out there, certainly I'm very appreciative of not only Matt's efforts, but the Alliance's efforts and anybody affiliated with it. They've been a tremendous partner, not only with me personally, but also collaborating with the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau and some other organizations. We're actually going to be having February the 3rd, don't quote me, but I believe it's 5:30 to 8:30 out at the Great Outdoor Show in Harrisburg. We're actually having a collaborative event, kind of as a meet and greet to network, not only with one another, but also to really bridge a lot of gaps. Matt and I have talked, a lot about the need for, especially when you talk about permits. There are permits that affect different industries, but the one commonality with a lot of these that we're going to discuss a little bit here, these Chapter 105 permits, they're actually a delegated authority that's brought down from the Army Corps of Engineers. So there's federal legislation that exists, and basically that delegates authority back to the state. So the DEP has a tremendous amount of regulatory authority. So when we talk about regulatory reforms, which Matt and I are going to talk about, these are not things that necessarily the legislature has to write legislation to necessarily amend. Clearly, if the regulatory bodies choose to do something, whether that's incompetently or go above and beyond a purview in a negative way, clearly legislators can, introduce legislation to try to rectify that problem. But what we're trying to do is to educate people about these Chapter 105 permits, because they are truly the foundation of the house when you think about permitting in Pennsylvania. Some quick examples: fish habitat and streams, which is a GP1. Things such as access areas, like if you have a house and you need to cross a little ditch or a stream and you need to put in a culvert pipe. Things like replacing culvert pipes, replacing little bridges for driveways or for access to farms, private property, whether you're talking about just access to hunting camps. So there's a lot of access things there that have nothing to do with oil and gas, but also the oil and gas industry clearly would have, direct oversight or direct, I would say, impact. You want to read through all of them so people get a better understanding, and then we can obviously.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So GP1 would be for fish habitat enhancement and structures. GP2 is small dock and boat launching ramps. GP3 is bank rehabilitation, bank protection, and gravel bar removal. GP4 is intake and outfall structures. GP5 is utility stream crossings.
An intake and outfall structure, just to highlight this real quick, that would classify as like a sed pond, and is that correct?
This one is defined as authorizes the construction, operator, and maintenance of infall and outtake structures in, along, across, or projecting into regulated waterways of the Commonwealth. So this is where you would get into your SWIP permitting and those kind of things, where you're looking at retention and detention ponds. I know in Western Pennsylvania, we've seen a huge boom in commercial construction. So anytime you're looking at the bigger, like the Walmarts, the Home Depots, and those large planned shopping areas, each one of those is responsible for the stormwater management of the property that it's on. And to do that, they have to take into account for, 100-year rainfall, 10-year rainfall, 50-year rainfall events, and they build what are called retention and detention ponds. And these things are to slow the water down so that it can be managed and put out into the runoff ways or our streams and waterways. So these things are permitted, these things are regulated, and they're required to maintain a certain standard. And that's where this general permit would go, because you have the outflow structures and they have to be at certain heights to make sure that they manage the water outflow so that it's not just a deluge that erodes and takes out.
So if you go into like new housing developments, for this particular one, if anybody were to see these shopping centers, a lot of times they'll have them at the bottom of a hill. The biggest concept with this is these are meant for public safety and also for pollution prevention. So
yes.
They gather sediment, which is a good thing. It keeps it out of a stream. And also, like if you have a heavy rainfall, like Matt was saying, these are meant to collect water. Obviously, there's a point where it crests into the outflow. But the whole concept is to slow it down from hitting the stream, because I'm sure we've all seen, these instances where we've had a flash flood and, properties have been damaged, homes have been damaged, vehicles, people have actually died. So these are very critical. So I wanted to highlight that, but continue on to the next one.
Yeah, and also with that, whenever you do any kind of construction on a property, it readjusts how the water flows. So with this, it manages and it focuses where the water is going to go so that it's controllable, instead of having it redefine, kind of figure out where it wants to go on its own. Like we were talking, GP5 is the utility streamline crossing. GP6 is agricultural crossings and ramps. GP7 is minor road crossings. GP8 is temporary road crossings. GP9 are agricultural activities. And under that falls operation, modification, and maintenance of certain agricultural activities that encroach into streams and their floodway or bodies of water. These agricultural activities include grassed or lined waterways, terrace diversions, water storage facilities, and spring development. Minor drainage that supports the above activities is necessary for contour strips when part of an existing agricultural operation. So it deals with anything that would be in and around or impacting the construction around these waterways. GP10 is the abandoned mine reclamation permit, and then GP11 is maintenance, testing, repair, and rehabilitation or replacement of water obstructions and encroachments, and then GP15 is private residential construction in a wetland area. So, all these we're looking at are dealing with construction in and around the waterways, and that's why they're important, but they're also very, very similar, the different things that you do underneath them. And that's part of why Jason and I have been talking. There are ways that we should be able to have a basic setup for these so that we can push these permits through a little bit quicker.
The thing that So the last one that Matt read, I think, is a big. So this is a regulatory thing. So when you talk about repairs, repairs can actually be built into the existing permit approval. So I'm going to dive into kind of. Obviously, this is like a deep dive in another conversation, but for the gist of it, when you go to do these permits, obviously you fall within these different criteria, which we just talked about. Things that could be a housing development, it could be your private house that you're going to build on a lot, it could be a hunting camp, it could be a farmer's field, it could be an oil and gas business of any kind, whether they're putting in a pipeline, whether they're just trying to access a pad, doesn't really matter. There's a plethora of different array here of options. It could be a Walmart going in. The point here is that the federal government, with the Clean Water Act, delegates authority, again, to the Army Corps of Engineers, who then delegate that authority to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. The way that it's set up now is not how it is required by law to be set up. Whatever process comes out of this state, yes, the Army Corps of Engineers has to okay it, but the process we have now is not how it has to be. So let me just give you the gist, and I know I've given this example in the past, but let me dive into just a general permit number one. A general permit number one, if I wanted to do fish habitat, say I'm a farmer and I'm just like, you know what, I have a nice trout stream running through my field. Or let's say I have a nice trout stream running through my field. I not only want to do fish habitat, but I want to put fencing along my stream to keep the cows out, and I will then want to do a cattle crossing. You basically, what I just said right there is realistically 3 different permits. 3 different general permits. So for somebody wanting to do good, basically to help the environment, I'm going to dive you into the hurdles that person then has to deal with. Number one, you have to do what's called a PNDI study, which you have to go on, I believe it's the State Historical Society's website, and it's called a PNDI. You basically go through everything from mapping to giving the description of what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. I think it's like $40 you have to pay. You submit it. Usually the approval comes back within a day or two. And if there are issues with said property to where, let's say there's an endangered species or something along those lines, that would ping on that property. But if it's not, then you're obviously clear to go to the next step. The next step then is, okay, now I have to have my drawings, my schematics, we'll just call it a verbiage of what I want to do. There's also Excel spreadsheets that you have to fill out with charts describing they call it the impact zone. Mm-hmm. You fill all that out. You then submit that to the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. It then comes back once you get approval. You have to take the plan as a whole and your cover letter from the Fish Commission. You then have to go to, I'll give the example, Washington County. You have to print 2 hard copies of this plan, along with, in addition, you have to put together an erosion and sediment control plan. Mm-hmm. A lot of these are extremely rudimentary. In my opinion, they're kind of, they could be latched on to a general permit, like when you do your application, but I digress. I'll come back to that. The point being, you then go to the county, you have to give the 2 copies, then you have to write a check to the county and a check to the DEP. Right here, look at all these steps and the bureaucracy we're talking about. From this point, then whatever amendments have to be made, because now there theoretically could be amendments to come from them, then it goes up to the DEP. They sign off basically on behalf of the DEP and the Army Corps. So this process that I just conveyed to you can take, on a short period of time, 30 days. It could theoretically take months and months, yes, depending on the different scenario or what it is, depending on who's the applicant, I would say. So
also who the reviewer is,
which I think is a huge,
yes,
that is the whole concept. See, who's reviewing it? Do they even understand what they're looking at? Do they have an axe to grind with somebody? The way that permitting is to be it cannot be, from a constitutional perspective, you cannot discriminate against people. So even if somebody within the bureaucracy has an axe to grind on a personal note, they have a beef from high school, it doesn't matter. You cannot treat people differently when it comes to permitting.
Well, I think I would like to take it even a step further than that. I mean, taking any personal knowledge out of it. Every human has their own opinion and their own interpretation of things. I know that dealing in the field with different things, I'll look at something one way. You may look at it a different way, but the difference is I don't have authority to stop you from doing it, whereas in this case they do. One of the things that you and I have discussed at length is that what we're looking to do with a lot of this is to take the vagueness out of the law and actually implement, like this is exactly what it is. Either that be through through certified drawings that they put, because there are only so many ways you can do these things. And if there's something if we have an anomaly that falls outside of the norm, then there's a longer review period, or then there's something that we can build into this. So if you would have I know, one of the case points that we've talked about is the bridge that runs through the property on yours. That's an anomaly. That's not the norm. So that would trigger potentially something a little bit more going into it, but that should be for the 3, not the 3,000. And what Jason, with him talking about this, if we just have a base understanding of, this is white, this is black, we can adjust what we're doing to make sure that we fall inside those regulations. But what the world that we live in, I mean, I guess it's not just this, but we live in shades of gray is the best way to put it, because I can want to have one person come out, look at it, be like, okay, that's great. I would like to see this and this. That guy goes on vacation. They send somebody else out. He likes it done a different way. We've just spent the last 6 days doing it, and now he's got a problem with it, or she, and they halt work or whatever it is, and want you to redo something that you were told by the other inspector that's the way they wanted to see it done. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I don't think gets brought up enough is personal interpretation. And you're interpreting something that's so vague that it can be looked at. Yeah, like I said, it's varying shades of gray. That is what I think one of the biggest problems. So if we could get those kind of things locked down, if we could get those things nailed down, I think that actually takes away from a lot of what you were saying about that doesn't give the person the opportunity to grind an axe from high school. It doesn't give them an opportunity to grind an axe from, whatever social club or whatever it is, if it's a local deal, because now they're held to the standard that's in the law, and they don't have a leg to stand on where they can go, I want it this way, because now we have actual recourse to push back to say, no, that this is what it says. This is how we're going to do it. So,
well, the idea that we're working on collectively and that we wish to pursue is, number one, to change permit approvals to change to notices of intent. The DEP has legal authority to do this, but what has to change to do this? What is a notice of intent? Okay, let's back up with that. Instead of a review process happening when the submission takes place, basically when you submit, you get immediate approval. Now, to be able to achieve that goal, first of all, this PNDI system and the e-permit system would need basically overhauled, merged together, have one uniform system. That's number one. So you need to have updated technology, GIS maps, interactive maps that you could click on. That's number one. So you have to redo the electronics and technology within the DEP, and why this PNDI system even exists. I have never really grasped that whole. That just seems like bureaucracy at its worst. Number two, the whole concept of a general permit is a pre-approved activity by the agencies. So what has to happen is, when you go in, for example, Matt was saying agriculturally, like if you want to develop a spring, well, there's not just one way to develop a spring. There's probably, I'm sure you could do 20 different options. So what should happen is if I was going to develop the spring, I should be able to go into this website, make myself a login, click on the property, upload, click what I want to do. So it's going to say GP, whatever that GP number was for that agricultural activity.
It was GP9.
GP9. So if I click on a GP9, it should then give me the options of everything. So say, for example, I'm going to develop a spring. If I click on that, then there should be all these drawings. I should be able to click on whatever drawing, pick which one I want, drag a little. Basically, it should interactively drag and drop on my property, on the map, at the location. That would then be the schematic that would be with the that I would utilize. When I say a schematic, it's just not an aerial. I mean, you should have engineered schematics that are, again, pre-approved, compiled by not only the bureaucracy, but I think the thing that we miss the most is that when you talk about these drawings, if it's an oil and gas drawing, you need to go get the private sector and engage them and say, hey, can you guys give us options like drawings that what are the standard operating procedures you use for utility crossing? Hey, folks in agriculture, what are standard drawings that you like to utilize for cattle crossings or let's just say to get your tractor across a stream, or for that matter, if I want to put up fence, what are things that you can do? And so these are all like things that they exist now, but number one, we don't provide nearly enough options. But if we had this electronic system that was updated, you could then put all these options there, and it could be an interactive map that you could grab the little symbol, drag it over, drop it. When you do that, the state already has information on the stream data. So they have approximate widths, lengths, etc., flow rates. The state has this. So even if you're talking about anything impacting a stream, there would be no need for you to sit there and fill out that impact table. It should automatically populate on being approximate, because when you're doing this type of stuff, it doesn't matter what you do, you're never going to be exact down to the inch. No. So it's very, very critical that you have an interactive system that anybody could click on, and it's going to come up with an approximate impact. That's completely reasonable and fair, I think, not only from a construction perspective, but also from a legal perspective.
Agreed. Yeah, you can tier these things. Like to your point, if we're going to be talking about, we already know that there are a limited number of things. I would say that what we've discussed in the past with, outside people is that, we could make a general drawing for each one of the 15 ways that, like you're talking about, building the spring. It has, and as part of the permitting process, you can measure your flow rate. You can measure that and add that in as part of it, and it'll be able to spit it out. Now we've got certain depths. If A equals this, then this is what you do. Mm-hmm. If B equals this is the depth that you can dig that spring to. And then all those things are laid out. So I know, hey, look, my flow rate fits in this scale here, and that allows me to dig to a minimum of this, a maximum of this, with this much area impacted. If you do that, now it's on me. Like I've met the requirements to be able to do this. Now, whenever if they come out and I've got the ability to do type A, I've moved into digging in type B, now they can go, whoa, you did not qualify for this. And now they have a leg to stand on. We have a leg to stand on. But it's not somebody's interpretation. It's there in black and white. And I think that's one of the biggest things is we're trying to take guesswork out of it. We're trying to take a lot of the unnecessary stuff out of it that a lot of the same companies do the work in the area that I'm dealing mm-hmm. with. There are very few people that deal with stream remediation because of all the things that go mm-hmm. in that are involved with it. There are very few companies that do, like utility crossings, the pipeline crews, anybody that would be building access or whatever to or from pads, just in our case. But even outside of that, with the agricultural, you're dealing with people that, they've been on the land, the same land is going to get impact. So if I want to put a ramp, an ingress and egress into and out of a stream, I should know exactly what I've got. We configure the flow rates in there, depth of the stream. We make this list, here you go. This stream meets these criteria. Here are 3 drawings of how you can do it. It gives me options. So if I want to do, utilize gravel, if I want to utilize, say concrete, or, and then I give myself the third option, whatever that may be. And now we fall in line. Notice of intent comes out. We get it. Now I can schedule my project a lot quicker. I can get something done, because one of the other things, as you already know, we've seen is it'll utilize it to push schedules. And we had every intent of doing this project in the summer whenever it was dry, the stream was at its lowest and everything. By the time we get it 3 to 6 months later, we're looking at the rainy season, and the impact that we're going to have is actually going to be more in the scenario because of a timetable that was pushed on us. And we can't wait until the following year because we need to address the issue now.
I was just thinking about this, even with the retention ponds. If you had an interactive map, for those that use like Onyx or use any type of interactive mapping, like even like Onyx, it allows you to do acreages. So, if you're going to develop, let's just say it's a housing development, and you outline on that map where the houses are going to go, it should be able to very easily say that you must have a minimum, based upon that, clearly you must have a minimum depth, width, length of a retention pond to accommodate that many acres. It would automatically be able to populate those numbers. And the thing that Matt and I want to convey to everybody is this is not to circumvent or skirt around. This is to give a lot of people to get people access to create uniform practices. I can assure you that the permitting right now, region to region, is not happening the same, which is completely unconstitutional and should never be tolerated. So, I mean, we must start there. We have a huge problem in this state, and it needs to be reformed. The DEP has full discretion and authority to change it. So that's what we're trying to do. Again, I want to reiterate, we're not trying to like chop the tree down here. We're trying to create reforms and show people that this is legally allowed to happen. There are ways to create these computer systems and even apps. I mean, Matt even has to go, like, here's a great example. When Matt has to do a utility crossing, they have to go and take pictures of the site.
Yes.
When they turn in their permit application, then the DEP comes and takes pictures basically to check to make sure that those pictures were taken where they're supposed to be.
Well, they inspect the area. They inspect the crossing, yes.
So common sense says, well, wait a minute here. If you have this website and you could link an app to it, what the heck is the problem with going out and taking pictures that would geo-track your location, the time, the municipality, property owner, county?
They have the ability to do a lot of that stuff now. I mean, and this is what we're looking at a little bit more with the bureaucracy side of it. As we're doing it, like you listed off 4 or 5 different agencies. There is usefulness for some of these agencies. There is usefulness for doing what it is that they were designed to do, I believe. I believe where we got off the track is where we've given them more authority than what they have the knowledge base to do. I've dealt with some gentlemen at the DEP that were very knowledgeable, that were very forthright in what they're doing. Sometimes these gentlemen they know the book inside and out. But it comes back to they want it done their way because they have a strong feeling on what it is that they're looking at. I mean, to your point as well, it's not just in it's not just in oil and gas. It's not just in conservation stuff. I have a very good friend whose family had a hunting camp. They had some acreage in southwestern Fayette County, and back in the early 90s, there was a flood that came through their property, and their property was a split property. They had land on one side. There was a stream that they had acquired, and they built a bridge over. And the house, the cabin that they had was on the other side of that stream from the road, from their access point. Well, that flood comes along, and it washes out their bridge. And I mean, it took a lot of other things. It was very devastating to that area there in the early to mid 90s. And it was a property that a lot of people used. Well, they went back to the DEP and tried to get a permit to rebuild the bridge. And it took several years for them to finally get to a point to throw their hands in the air and just say it's not worth it anymore, because no matter what they did, I mean, I've got all the documentation. We're going to be talking about this a little bit more with some of the things that we're looking at, but they literally couldn't use the property. The house that they had been using, the thing fell into disrepair because they didn't have access to it. They didn't have ingress, egress on any of the other pieces of property because they were state game lands, other things around the property that they couldn't utilize to build a road in there. And the DEP just would not allow them. Every time they came up with something or another workaround, they were just stonewalled. And now that piece of property has fallen into disrepair. I shouldn't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars and years of my life to be able to go back and utilize a piece of property that we were already utilizing, that the state had already deemed was worthy of building a bridge over, because you as a regulatory authority can't figure out exactly what it is you want. I mean, and that's not just that one case. I mean, we've talked to people that this has been the case time and time again because of whatever the case may be. If we put it in black and white and these are the rules, anytime you fall inside the rules, you now have access. And that's one of the big things for me is bringing back access, not just for like oil and gas, but with the conservation people that we deal with all the time, with, just literally everyday landowners. Like, this is something that goes. The natural gas industry has a lot of people that can speak for it. Joe Blow that has a camp in southern Fayette County they're not going to get anybody to listen to them because, to be honest with you, no one cares. But it can become a real big problem for you if you're in the same position. Now you care, but you're too small of a number for really to make any kind of resounding change.
The other thing I want to highlight on too is when you hit submit at the end of this process that we're talking about, this electronic process. Number one, the payments will be processed. That's number one. Number two, your E&S plan would be part of this. So, like, there would be E&S. The concept would have the E&S templates, basically. So you could have standardized E&S plans that could be part of it. So you'd pick from that. Obviously, pictures, like we're saying, geotrack pictures could be uploaded. All that stuff is absolutely an opportunity. The other thing is when you hit submit, all the appropriate agencies would be notified.
Yes.
So there would be no hiding it or skirting from it. Your conservation districts, Fish Commission, DEP, Army Corps, they would be notified that, hey, this note of intent payment was processed, the application was done, boom. Now, when it's all said and done, if you are outside of we'll just call it the scope of work, and you need to do what is classified then as an as-build, I shouldn't say out of the scope of work. If your dimensions are off, or if something isn't exactly to exactly the way it was, you're supposed to, at the end, then submit, I would say, site-specific drawings to detail what exactly you did.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're digging, you don't know what's under there. You may incur some unforeseen changes that you couldn't have known about. But I mean, inside, a lot of the different permits have a thing for field changes. And if you meet those, it's a simple conversation. You have somebody come out, you check on that, and you guys you agree and move forward at that point. And all that would also fall under, the black and white guidelines that are set forth in the beginning. You can follow those as closely as you can. And then if there's any kind of deviation from the original plan, that can be addressed in real time, and you can continue on with the project.
And there's even things through this, such as, I even believe there even needs to be modifications to the description of certain GPs, or even others added. Simple example would be like a pond installation at a farm. There's really no guidance. Like, you're out there kind of in no man's land. So, like, I see that as a viable opportunity, that farmers and even people as a whole could get some better guidance there, because there's no prefabbed drawings that exist by the DEP. That is literally, you're out in la land. So that's one. Two is sediment. A lot of farmers have issues with flooding, debris in streams. So then you get into encroachments.
Yeah. So
as soon as you get within 50 feet with a heavy piece of equipment, you're supposed to have a permit. So theoretically, the sandbar permit, I apologize, I forget which one it is, but there's a permit to address sandbar removal. That one needs opened up and expanded to address the needs of people with flood issues. Also, I think it's completely insane the fact that you can only take the sandbar down to the water level. Like, you should be able to dig down and establish pools for fish, wildlife, etc.
And reutilize the material that's already there.
And then you can reutilize the material, even blend it into the embankments, or keep it on that general property. I don't see that being an issue at all. I think it's kind of some of the stuff. It's kind of mind-boggling that we have to talk about it. But we are gonna certainly keep you posted. I'm gonna actually have Matt on hopefully in the future, sooner than later, because we're going to be documenting a bunch of stuff. We're going to be going out kind of highlighting these specific projects, getting more video content. So if we can show people like, hey, here's a stream crossing. Hey, here's temporary roadway. Hey, here's an agricultural application, just so people get a better total understanding of what we're doing. But I want to thank Matt for coming on today. I'm excited for February 3rd. I will certainly keep everybody posted and updated as we progress. But again, I want to give a close out by thanking him. Please come check us out February 3rd. If you're out in Harrisburg, we'd love to see you. Please come check us out for our bash, our outdoor and energy bash, the end of March. Information's at MarianOutdoors.com. If you want to join the MOA, go to MarianOutdoors.com or our Facebook page. We'd love to have you. Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Book your hunt today. I'm Jason White. This has been The Great Outdoors. I will see you all next week.